Well, good evening, everyone. Here we are on the 18th of December. Yes, it's a Sunday night, and normally you see me on Saturday nights, but every now and then something comes up where it's time to make an exception for. And tonight is one of those exceptions so that I could have my special guest on tonight to join us for some amazing and what's going to be awesome Scream 6 talk. And the last time he was here, we talked looking backwards on our favorite moments of the franchise. And now we're looking forward, not only looking forward, literally excited, but also looking forward to the film from our own perspectives, theories, and kind of our wish list for Scream 6, what we hope to see. Now, before we get into bringing on Zack, I want to just remind everyone that when I have a special guest like this, and we have a lot of chat coming in, it will be impossible to get to everyone's questions. As hard as we may try, it's just not plausible. So I will definitely get to as many as I can as they come through. But keep in mind, if you want to have your question addressed or comment addressed by either of us or both of us, there is a way to do that. Simply send a super chat in. I get a notification. And in fact, my moderator, my lead moderator tonight is Val. So Val, thanks to you and all my other mods that are here. And anytime a super chat comes in, she notifies me immediately as an extra, as Mr. Miyagi would say, extra bonus to make sure I catch it. And nothing gets by because it can go by really quickly. So if you do want to have that done for sure, Zack and I promise that we will not end the stream until every super chat has been discussed and shared. All right. And we'll get to everyone else that we can as well. But just keep that in mind. You do have an avenue to ensure we get to discuss your question or comment. And last thing, two things real quick before we get into the stream. I want to say a quick shout out to my patrons and channel members. You guys are amazing. Your support helps keep the lights on the channel every single month. And your faithfulness blows me away every month. And I'm so thankful for all of you, regardless of what level you contribute. It all makes a difference. So before Zack and I start getting into it, I want to put the spotlight on all of you for just a moment to say, all right, thanks again, guys. Much appreciated. And hey, while you're here, if you're not a member, I'll just say real quick, it's simple. Click the join button. It's right next to subscribe. And you can become a channel member right now live, and we can thank you here on the stream. Thank you, guys. All right, so listen, here we go, guys. It is time. So my next guest, or my first guest, my only guest tonight, I have cleared the decks. And my only guest tonight is coming back for a second time, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm so thankful that we were able to work out a date here in December as things are getting crazy with Christmas and holidays in general. And he was able to make it to talk Scream with me tonight. So please welcome someone who I have mad respect for, love his channel and his content for a very long time. And he's a really cool guy. So please welcome the one and only Zack Cherry to the stream. What's up?
Hello, Stephen. How are
Hey,
you?
man. I am good. Thank you again for this treat, man, to come back and visit and talk Scream. It's the best, man. I love it.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for that introduction. I also,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so blown away by your live stream because I mean I don't know how to live stream.
To hang out and talk. And I'm very, very excited. So start sending your questions in and we'll get to as many as possible throughout the course of the night. So Zack, man, where do we even begin with Scream 6? My gosh, since I saw you last, there's been so much news. I mean, the casting of Samara Weaving and Kirby was added back and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think that
So
we already knew about, but
we did know
the
about the,
date
yeah,
the
but
date change
yes,
that was a
that's
big
true.
thing.
That was a big thing. So tell me what you think. What was your thoughts about that? Because we were at March 31st, and then they moved it up to the 10th. What was your initial thought when that
What
happened?
are
Like,
they? What are they afraid of? Like, who are they competing against, or would have been competing against? That's my question.
well, I know this. The week before that, the weekend before the 31st, John Wick 4 came out. This comes out. So
Okay.
they would have been like the next weekend competing with John Wick 4, and that's a big gun. No pun intended. To compete against. And so I thought maybe
Yeah.
it was that.
I've never
Yeah.
seen a John Wick movie.
Really?
Really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you like fast-paced action, fighting kind of
Oh yeah,
stuff?
I'm
You
sure.
know?
I'm sure I would love it. I haven't gotten around to it because I mean
Man,
I've got horror on the brain
of
24/7. Like
course.
everything. Like I
Yeah,
only have time for horror, so
right.
that usually takes up like most of my days.
Sure. And that is kind
Yeah,
of a downside to it. I mean, not that there's really a downside, but I know what you're saying. Like it does get hard because when you're and if you do watch a non-horror movie, it's like, man, I could be watching, you know,
a horror
XYZ
movie.
movie, horror
Yeah,
movie, and it's like
yeah,
you don't even enjoy it. So I get that, man. Well, if the time ever allows, I absolutely recommend the John Wick films. They're fun. Yeah,
yeah.
they're fun.
Yeah,
But
but I guess to
yeah,
answer your question about the what I felt about the date change, like that's just crazy to me because I was already astonished that we would be getting 6 so close after 5. Because I mean, this
yeah,
is that would have been just over 14 months, and now we're just under 14
I
months. So
know.
that's pretty crazy. That's well, because Scream to Scream 2
Mhm.
was that was less than a year because
It
I
was just under a year. It was
yeah.
December 12th, and then Scream 1 was December 20th, and 2 was the
Mhm.
12th of the following year, which is
Yeah.
that's nuts. And that was, but that was with Wes Craven at the helm. Like I'm like, okay, Wes can pull that off. But that's a fast-paced task.
Yeah.
Um,
And with like and with
yeah,
a lot of like rewrites and
yes,
all that stuff, and
true. Any
production meddling.
production.
So
Oh gosh, don't get me started on the Weinsteins. That's a whole nother stream, man. We could all the meddling of those guys. It's like, really?
yeah.
Dude. But I'm telling you, yeah, it's really fast. Which, but my thought also was because they moved it up, because I think that possibly it was the test screenings went really well, and I've heard, of course, I don't know, like someone who's actually been there, obviously, but I've heard like feedback has been that test screenings were really well received for six. And so maybe they had put the 31st anticipating possible rewrites or reshoots. Um, I don't know. I'm speculating here, obviously, but
Yeah.
it could play a factor. I don't know. It's possible anyway. Um, but either way, Zach, we've got it earlier, which we'll take it, right? We'll take it.
Not complaining.
Exactly.
There's a whole
No.
slew of like just a great lineup of movies coming out early in 2023 because we have Evil Dead Rise in April.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, it's two fantastic franchises, month apart from each other. Like
Wow.
it's 2023 is already shaping up to be pretty decent. Hopefully better than this year.
Yeah. But and we should have a stream sometime that we talk about like other films, like horror films of the year and stuff to really dig into because that would be
Are
interesting.
there other movies? Yeah.
Right? I mean, I see them on Prime, Amazon Prime, but do they really exist? Because
Yeah.
we live in the Scream universe. That's where I live every day.
Hmm.
But there were just before we get into Scream 6, I'll just ask you, did you get a chance to see like X or Pearl or any of those? Did you have the opportunity to see those
I've
and what you think about
seen as of right now, I've been keeping track of like how much I've seen this year. I've seen almost 60 horror movies that came out in 2022.
them? Man.
So I it
Ooh,
there's gonna be a tier list. I don't know how I'm gonna
right?
figure that out, but it's coming. It's gonna happen.
Gosh, man.
Yeah.
That's gonna take some time to
Mhm.
sift through.
Yeah,
Whoa.
because I mean, when you like just in this day and age, when everything like you have your theatrical releases, but it seems
Mhm.
like really like 75% of the movies that come out are all streaming or
Yeah.
video on demand or just like direct to uh
Mhm.
Paramount Plus or whatever.
Yeah, or yeah, Peacock and Hulu and all that.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
they're
even
all
get Peacock in Canada. So
oh, no.
any sort of like any sort of like exclusive to that like their what was
Oh,
that
man.
one that they them? We
Yeah,
didn't
they
get that
them.
here. Yeah.
Mm.
I found a
Oh
way to watch
man.
it, but it's frustrating when like you don't get everything, and especially with
Yeah.
just like based on like what is released by region, because there's so much that the Canadian Broadcasting Commission will block from
Man.
getting in here. So you like, unless you have a VPN or find some other illegal
Yep.
way to get the the movie, you're not going to be able to see it.
That's just messed up, man. Because one
Yeah.
of my friends who actually discovered my channel from our first stream together, Sarah Campbell, who's big fan of yours. In fact, speaking of which, that's funny how this lines up here because Sarah herself has sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
And
Sarah.
Sarah says, "Love when my two favorites get together to talk about my favorite movies." Aw, that's awesome,
Sarah
Sarah.
actually just messaged me right before this, so
Oh, no way. That's so
yeah.
cool, man. That's great. Well, she has come over here and just become such a part of the community here on my channel, and she's now a moderator. I mean, she's so faithful, and she's just fantastic, man. Really great person. And thank you, Sarah. That's so kind of you. Appreciate that very much. And speaking of super chats, I did promise we move you to the front of the line, and I keep my word. Lindsay, what's going on? $5 super chat. I would like my one ticket for the stew train. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I can do that for you, Lindsay. Do me a big favor. Let me. So here's the stew train ticket. You can get a stew train ticket for $5 super chat, and just tell me you want a stew train ticket. I will email this to you, or I can send it to your Instagram or Twitter messages. So Lindsay, if you would just do me one big favor, message me on Instagram or Twitter, or email me cravensomething@gmail.com and tell me you're claiming your ticket. I will email it right back to you. I've got people that have printed this thing out. They've got it on their framed on their wall at their offices, desks. I get stories all the time about stew train tickets. So
You need like to put an image of Stu just kind of like leaning out of the window and like maybe like pulling on like the steam whistle.
yes, that'd be awesome. Man, I tell
Yeah.
you, I really maybe that's something we should do.
Drool just like flowing down his face,
Yes.
veins popping in the forehead.
Oh yeah, in a vein, the
Yeah.
neck veins, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Carrie Crave Cinema, who's one of my mom's great supporters, created that for me. So Carrie, I know you're here, Carrie. Maybe we'll talk about that. It's a great suggestion from Zack. Thank you, Lindsay, really for your super chat, and please do send me that message when this stream is over. I will respond and send it to you.
Thank you,
Much
Lindsay.
appreciated. It's awesome. And speaking of, man, I'll tell you what, things were just lining up. Speaking of Carrie Crave Cinema, who created that ticket, she sent in a $2 super chat. Thanks, Carrie. Says, welcome to another Craven stream, Zack. Hashtag Carnage Candy. Nice.
Thank you, Carrie.
Appreciate you, Carrie. All right. Okay. Awesome. So Scream 6. Now, where do we want to begin with this? How about this, man? Why don't we start with the teaser trailer, right? That just came out. And let me see. I've got a few images from it that I put in, but let me start with this second. I don't know what your feelings are on this, but when they announced the movie back in February, my first thought was, "Oh man, they're going to name this movie Scream 2." I'm like, "Don't name it Scream." I know it's just a name, but I'm like, "Don't do Scream 2. We have Scream 2. Wes Craven. We just let's respect the Craven movies." With and name it something else. There's all kinds of different names. I mean, and at the end of the day, most of us, I believe in the fandom, would call it Scream 6 anyway. Like we call it Scream 5. I still call it Scream 5,
Same.
not Scream
Yeah.
2022, right? So
Yeah.
there were rumors, Zack, that came out that it was going to be Scream exclamation point, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
no, Scream 2. Don't.
Well, that
No.
was sort of their production teaser, or whatever
Yes.
was on the director's clapper board. So
Mhm.
I mean, I think that most of us probably knew that that was just a working title, but yeah,
Yeah.
there was always the fear of just like, oh, they're not going to do two, as it's because
Yeah.
it's like, I guess the logic is like, well, that was Wes Craven's Scream 2. This is
Yeah.
the new Scream 2, and yeah, I absolutely hate that. I've actually seen a lot of. Well, not a lot, I should say a few, because it is just a few people who are upset, just like writing on like message boards and stuff of just saying how it doesn't make any sense and that this should be called Scream 2 because the last one was called Scream, and
No.
that's illogical.
Yes. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, what are you talking about? We have
Yeah.
Scream 2.
It was
And
already confusing enough to have Scream.
yes. Yes. Because I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Hey, Zach, you want to watch Scream 2? Well, which one? You know, Scream 2, Craven Scream 2, or Radio Silence
Yeah.
Scream 2. Oh no. And of course, you know, when Radio Silence explained why they named it Scream, so that it would be meta with the joke about Stab 8 with Ryan Johnson, then I got it. I'm like, oh, they were trying to make it funny, is why they called this movie Scream, because they
Yeah.
knew when we saw that footage of the stab footage, why don't they, you know, with dead meat, why don't they call it Stab 8? We all know it's what it is. It's like it correlates to the film itself that we're watching, which is
Yeah.
super meta. It's cool, but I don't know. I personally, again, it's in the past. Scream 5 would have been my choice, but they didn't
Yeah.
ask me.
I think that with a franchise like Scream, where it's just the title is Scream, it's one word,
Yeah.
one syllable,
Mhm.
that you don't like. You can add numbers like that's it's not like
Yeah.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, where like back in the old days when you had the marquee and like all that letters that you would have to put up
Mhm.
there. Like you don't have that problem. It's like Halloween
Yeah.
5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Just be like Scream 5. That's it. And
That's it.
and it's beautiful. It's simple. You can market that easily. I mean, that's like look at the Fast and the Furious franchise. It's just, they've even started just taking words away because there's too much, but they'll always retain the number to
Yeah.
let people know that, like, yeah, this is sequentially where it falls in the grand scheme of the continuity. So
Yes.
I mean, I probably would have much preferred to get a 6, just like a big 6, either at the right of the title or
Okay.
a big one behind it, but I do
Mhm.
kind of like the way that the Roman numerals line up with the M, and that was sort of a fan theory too for a while. So it's
Mhm.
it works, and I like how in the trailer or the teaser they kind of show it by like slashing through the M, revealing
Yes.
the VI.
That's right. As if the M is literally bleeding. I love how it's that the animated blood like pouring down the letters or the letter, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
numbers. And it really does transform that M to you. I mean, it just stands out so much when you put the red on it. And I mean, my heart, listen, man, I'm with you. You know, Scream traditionally prior to like well, with the Craven movies, it's always except for Scream 4, and I love Scream 4's intro title card where the A flipped to
Mm-hmm.
the 4, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm a fan of that personally. But this is similar to 4, which I wonder if there's a correlation because they're, you know, the 4 Scream 4 connection with Kirby and you know, they're not
Yeah.
they didn't flip the you know anything, but it is different as far as the animation of the logo. So, ah,
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, what are people going to call it now? Because with
mhm,
Scream 4, you have Scriform, obviously.
right.
So would this be Screevy?
Screevy.
That's, yeah,
I love it.
Screevy.
Maybe. Dude. Ah, that's awesome, man. But I have to say, regarding the title, and I know we got some super chats coming in, so don't worry, guys. We're gonna get to those. Don't worry, I got them keeping track. Just keep sending those in. We'll get to them, I promise. But I will say this, Zach, about this logo that it was nice, and I felt like when I saw it on the teaser trailer, where like you said, it had been rumored for a while, and it was just a rumor. But when we actually saw it, and it turned to that V1. I'm like, oh, I felt good. I was like, thank you, Radio Silence. Like you did it right. You did the right thing by
Mhm.
naming this Scream 6. It was the right thing to do. And it was great. And then of course that mask behind it, we're going to talk about that. We're going to save that one for later because we're going to park on that for a while because it's
Okay.
a lot of possibilities. But before we get there, let's see here real quick. Let me catch up with the chats that are coming in. We got a couple of them here. We've got Jack Stannis, my good friend Jack, with a $2 super chat on the Stew Train. I know he wrote a song, Zack. He's written a song called The Stew Train and actually have a music video for it and everything. So if you're interested in hearing that later, Zack, we can play it. I can play it here on the stream. But Jack's a talented guy. And thank you, Zack. Zack. Thank you, Jack, for
Thank
your
you,
super
Jack.
chat. Yes, we appreciate it. And yes, get your ticket on that Stew Train. Absolutely. And I see we got a super sticker here coming in. Save Robbie with a $5 super sticker. That's fantastic. I'm trying to find the sticker. Oh, there it is. It says, "How's it going?" Is the sticker. It is going great. Are you kidding? I got Zack
Very well.
right here, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yes, this is awesome. Thank you for that, Save Robbie. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Robbie.
It's awesome. And my buddy Destin from over at Destination Station, who also has a really great channel, just hit 2,000 subs. Congratulations to Destin. Says, after the teaser trailer, we need to switch to the Stew Subway now. Yeah, great stream. Agree with something scary and Zack. Oh, awesome. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Destination Station. It does make more sense to go with the subway. You might have to change it.
That's a real good point. The Stew Subway. That is something to mull over, my friend, for sure. Thanks, Destin, for your super chat, buddy. As always, man. Appreciate you. All right. I think I've caught up now. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anyone. All right. Yep. We're current. Okay. So this trailer, Zack, to me was the perfect teaser trailer. This is everything I want from a teaser. It gives me a feel of the atmosphere, great atmosphere, great and wait, even the audio, the sound, everything. I felt like I was in New York. It felt real. I felt when I saw Mindy's face, I have to tell you, I said, "Oh, I felt that fear." I literally could see it all over her face. It was dread, right? And I thought to myself, how much her arc has already changed without hearing her speak. Because in 5, she was that cocky, kind of arrogant, character, remember? And then all of a sudden, she never looked like that in 5. That look she has is genuine fear. So I'm really curious, how did you feel watching that teaser? What are your thoughts on it overall?
I think, okay, well, the part showing her getting attacked, notwithstanding, I think that's how you should do a teaser, or even like a full trailer. I know we're gonna get another trailer, but I don't think we need it.
I don't either.
But yeah, that's perfect because it gives you no plot information. It just establishes the setting and the characters who are there, at least like the ones that we should know about, even if you haven't been following, just like the core group who survived the last movie. And we see that there's a new killer and they're going after them. And that's all you need to know. And it establishes the mood and all that. As far as the Mindy stuff goes, I mean, I think that's a fake out personally.
Okay. All right.
I mean, not to say it's a fake scene. I just think it's like she's not. I don't think that either of the twins are going to die because that seems like something that would be expected. Because I think right now everyone's wondering, like, is it going to be Chad or Mindy? And I think that the surprise is going to be that it's neither, and it's going to be either Tara or Sam.
Ooh, okay. So you think that the surprise kill, quote, is
Yeah.
going to be one of the Carpenters?
Yeah. I think that Mindy is going to get
Oh,
Deweyed, like Scream 2 Deweyed, where we're
okay.
going to think that she's dead, but that, like, she might step on a slice of pizza on the subway and get distracted, and then Ghostface will come out of nowhere and stab her. But, I full on see the recreation of that final scene of 2 where Dewey's being wheeled down the stairs and Gale goes running up to him, of that being like Chad in the
Okay.
Gale position of it, going and like finding his sister still alive, and it's interestingly enough, like that would then be 2. You had Scream 1 and 2 both ended with Dewey being taken away on a stretcher, and now that's sort of like would be mirrored with Mindy. And since these movies are all
True.
about homaging stuff that's already happened, I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen people say that Chad is the new Dewey. I
Right.
think that Mindy is the new Dewey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you think that maybe she's going to kind of take up that role, like, because I always saw Dewey as, and I still do, as
Yeah.
the heart, like the heart. He's
Yeah.
the heart of the franchise, right? That's the compassionate. He's the
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Gail said, he's no coward. You know, um, caring about other people, caring about Sydney very
Mhm.
much, like a brother almost. And
Yeah. I mean, one of
um,
the characters is going to have to take that mantle. I don't necessarily
yeah,
mean that like that Mindy is like the new Dewey just in terms of like, filling that void, but she's the new Dewey just in terms of replicating the beats that we've already seen in the previous movies with the
hmm,
characters.
gotcha. Makes okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes
Because
sense.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think that like Mindy's still very much the Randy of
right.
the group. So I mean, maybe if they, we'll see what happens with because Tara and Chad are still like very underdeveloped. I think that like
Yes.
Tara is developed in a sense that we know that like just her relationship with Sam, but we don't really have a sense of who she is independently from Sam, and we definitely don't have a sense of who she is in the friend group. With
Hmm.
the twins, we don't know anything about her relationship to them. And Chad was just kind of underwritten as well in
Yeah.
5. So um, it's going to be interesting because there's a lot of people in this movie, like we've discussed. So
Right.
there's there's going to be a faction of the fan base that's going to be upset, whether it's going to be the Gale stands or the Kirby stands
Hmm.
or the Carpenter Meeks stands.
Yep.
And I think like definitely because there's a new slew of people coming in as well. I think that all of those characters are going to be very thinly written,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
because there's not going to be enough time to
Oh.
deal with them. Just like like in an ideal world, we would have a Scream 2 situation where everyone sort of is represented to the best that they can. Like obviously that movie had issues of Mickey disappearing for 45 minutes, and
Yep.
Cotton was he was also kind of absent for most of the movie until the end.
Hmm.
Um, but otherwise, like
True.
I think they did a good job of like checking in on everyone, and just seeing what was up. So ideally that would be what they do here, but I can't for the life of me think of like what is Kirby doing in this movie.
Right. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great question, man, because we've got, last time I counted, including Kirby, we're at 14 central cast members. We had
Yeah.
13 in 5. And, one of the biggest complaints I had of 5 and disappointments was that I did not feel there was enough development of these new characters to where you got to know them better. Like we really started to form some kind of connection. We didn't see them enough. You have to be on screen for more than 4 scenes and
Hmm.
limited lines for us to start to really like, oh, I like this person. I connect with this
Yeah.
person. And so my hope was in 6 that we're going to have a scenario where we're going to get more of those, at least for the core 4, which is what I
Yeah.
call them, the core 4, developed, and let us see them interact with one another more and show us
Yeah.
their vulnerable sides and all that stuff. But to your point, we're at 14 people, including the core four. That's one extra than we had last in five. So I'm a little nervous unless they start to like wipe out the body count. Most of them are probably going to all be there to be victim fodder, right? Most of them, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And a couple of them will be a Ghostface killer, I'm sure. So, but to your point though, what is your concern level about us having the development of the core four when you're supporting Samara and Kirby
Yeah.
and Gale, right?
I mean, Gale's another question mark because I like who knows what or
Mm-hmm.
how large her role is going to be in this either.
Yeah.
Um Ideally, like what I would want is like two separate storylines. One, I mean, how it would have worked in my mind is kind of like separate the sisters, have a Tara storyline and a Sam storyline, and
Right.
then the appropriate characters then kind of like sort of like a pyramid down from there of just like the different factions of the movie, or have that like one be the Carpenter sisters and the other be Gale. But I mean, it would be nice if Gale had more to do here, but again, it's just sort of like I don't know if she's sort of just there for fan service or just to be like, oh, we just to show that we're bringing back legacy characters still, or that she might have a bigger arc here.
Yeah.
Um, but just like in terms of the four, like even going back to Scream 2 and 1, really, because like Randy is not he's not in either of those movies very much.
It's true.
And it's like just the amount of like screen time and scenes that he actually has is very little, especially in the sequel. But for some reason, and I don't know if this is the writing or Jamie Kennedy's portrayal, but he just feels like larger than life, like he's all over that
Yes.
movie. And this is not to say anything bad about any new cast members or not, but I think that as long as they're going to be towing this line of like, oh well, this is Randy's niece, so it's going to be like the new Randy. I don't think that they should be focused on making characters like the new whoever, rather than just make a character their own thing. So I think there is potential like that. They don't have to have Mindy and Chad like all over the movie, but if they do it right, and they could have limited scenes, their presence could feel a lot bigger than it is, and especially if who knows who dies and when they do in the movie, but as long as it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of consistent throughout, I don't think it will be noticed as much. And yeah, just in terms of the kills, it's been a while since I say a while, probably like a few months since I've seen 5, but it felt like the kills weren't, and this can be said for all the Scream movies, like the like kill set pieces were kind of few and far between,
Yeah.
especially in 5. I mean, there's what, like 6 kills in that movie.
Yep.
That maybe if there is a larger cast, I think the one thing with 5 is that there was no opening kill, and it was just one character in that scene. So whatever the opening scene is, like kill off 2 people there, and then have the next kill come very soon on the heels of that, and then just kind of like consistently just kill people off throughout the movie until you get down to your real killers and your red herrings, and then it's kind of like, who could it be? And play it that way. Maybe that would be the best strategy to go about.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and I think that one of the things too that I've talked a lot about, and I think we mentioned on our last stream. Scream 5 was, to me, I call it a love letter to Wes. It was that homage movie to him that basically paying respect is to his Wes's way of doing things for the most part, and not necessarily exactly the same, but definitely making it felt more like a radio silence and Wes Craven in a blender mixed together into a smoothie, and that's kind of what 5 was to me when I see it. Uh, I mean, like for example, the West kitchen scene is just so right Wes Craven's alley. Like the whole door opening and closing, I remember when I was in the theater, I'm like, oh, this is like so feels like I'm watching a West Scream movie right now. Just the things like that they did were great. Um, However, having said that, I've also been real vocal on the idea that this needs to be the movie that they really kind of step out now. They respectfully, lay some of the mantle down at Wes's feet now and say, okay, we're gonna make this more of an 80% radio silence movie, if not 100%, and still have
Mhm.
an homage like we're already seeing in the trailer, where they have 96 on the columns in the subway, you know, and we know that they changed the building number to 1939 to be Wes Craven's birthday. I mean, there's a lot of
You
Easter
know
eggs.
that. I don't know that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just a couple of things that they've done. Like there was one of the big buildings they filmed out there, and I know a lot of this because one of my good friends is Chris, who runs the YouTube channel Discover Montreal. He's like an ambassador of the city, so we've been in contact. He's was taking pictures and sending them to me as he would find filming locations. So I was able to break like pictures that no one had of the locations and stuff, and he gave a lot of insight. And so he's the one that was sharing this information, and it's a building in Montreal called the Milton Building. It's actually the name of the building, and so
Mm.
they left the name Milton. So now you got the little Scream 3 tip of the hat right in the
Mhm.
building,
Yeah.
but the address was something else. And again, if you don't know this, you will never know when you watch the movie, But the address is 1939, so they're gonna walk by. You can see 1939. So just little things like that, they're still doing for
Yeah.
Easter eggs. But I really do hope that we
39
see.
being Wes Craven's
Oh, his
birth year.
birth year. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I wasn't sure if it was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. My bad. Yeah,
No,
born
it's
in
okay.
1939. Um, and so things, and then of course the other big, and you'll see them like, the Jill's Flower Shop, and they got the big, and they have a truck parked on the street, Ready or Not Moving Company. I mean, it's just great. They're already
Yeah.
showing a lot of stuff, and the last big one that I'm aware of is in the bodega where they get attacked in the movie. And did you see that image that came out with the shotgun in the bodega? Did you see all that? That was came out.
Um, yeah, I didn't like read anything about it. I just saw it and
Okay,
it's just like,
yeah,
okay, it didn't look real.
yeah. It was very low res. That wherever I think they got it probably from the trailer that's coming out in January or February, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's what it's from. But either way, that's the place they filmed at there. It's called Abe's Snake Bodega. And what's interesting is, and only the hardest core Wes Craven fans are going to understand that name or recognize that name, I should say. The Abe's Snake is referencing a character Wes Craven played under the name of Abe Snake, and it was on a porn movie that Wes Craven made in the early 70s, like before he was making horror movies.
Okay,
And he
interesting.
and he played a character named Abe Snake. And so Radio Silence names the bodega Abe's Snake Bodega. So when you see that in the movie, that is literally
Now
referencing
you know. Yeah.
there. Now you know. It's like, oh my gosh, I know what that's about. Anyway, those are some of the Easter eggs that I know about. But anyway, my point is, I believe that this is the chance that Radio Silence needs to take and really put their own stamp on it. And we've heard from Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera, and on interviews saying how this is the goriest, most aggressive and violent, those are their words, Ghostface they've ever seen, and that it gets gorier and gorier as the pages turn. 2 weeks ago, Melissa was interviewed, and she made this quote, and I'm sure it's some hyperbole, obviously, but Zach, she said, this movie has the potential to be 100 times gorier than any Scream film.
Hmm.
Now, here's my question to you, and I'm going to let go with your thoughts. When I hear those things, I'm like, okay, I don't have a problem with it, but here's what I would much rather hear Jenna and Melissa be saying. Something like, this is the best story in a Scream film you've ever seen. This is like the best mystery you're going to ever see. Or,
Yeah.
just something, you know what I mean? Like, That's what I would love to be hearing. And when all I hear is gore, violent,
Yeah.
more gore, I'm like, well, wait a minute, Zach. Does that mean that the story is weaker and they're trying to make us distract us with just amping the gore? So,
Mhm.
what are your
I mean,
thoughts, man?
it's possible that like there are a multitude of different fans of horror, and you do have the gore hounds. That's people that you want to satisfy, and if they think that that's kind of makes up the larger percentage of the Scream fan base, then they might be, trying to placate that group. Obviously, like, you and I would want to hear, like, this is a good story, this is a really good mystery.
Yeah,
And certainly, like, after, coming off of 5, where the marketing was very heavy on, you know, who could the killer be? The killer is on this poster, every cast member having the Ghostface mask. And that was like a non-element of that movie. There was no murder mystery at all. It was just kind of like going through the motions until we get to the end and like, here's our killers.
right.
So
True.
I don't know. I like the thing is like the writers on this. I'm not like 100% on board with them.
Mhm.
Because it was Guy Busick. He did Ready or Not. Is that
Yes,
correct? Yeah,
that's
he
right.
was one half of the writing team of Ready or Not. And I'm not shitting on anyone here.
Yeah, that's all right.
But
Just speaking your mind. That's all.
that movie, like I love Ready or Not. It does have some story issues. In particular, like I just feel like kind of how um, Grace, the Samara Weaving
Oh yeah.
character, was written, and
Mhm.
just some of like the things that happened to her in that movie. Like I felt like maybe she just did not have enough agency throughout most of that. And then also what we found out afterwards is that it was Radio Silence who actually rewrote the ending, which gave us that wonderful ending that
Right.
hopefully most of us all know and love from that movie.
Yep.
And kind of looking at 5, there's so like most of my issues with that movie are the writing.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and I'm just afraid that it's I've probably said this before, that the things that worked with Scream 5 and the things that didn't work, my fear is that they're going to double down on the things that didn't work, and we're just going to see
Mm,
more of that in
yeah.
6. So if that's kind of the thing, not to say that the gore in 5 didn't work, but if they feel that it's just like, well, we lost a few people, we need to reel them back in by being even bloodier and gorier, that's not
Exactly, man.
necessarily what's going to make it work for me.
Yeah. I don't
Might
me either.
for a lot of other people, but I
Yeah.
think like Scream 3 was pretty bloodless, and people still stayed with the franchise in spite
Yep.
of that.
Heck yeah, man. And and like I say, Scream 3, I know it's like always gets beat up on, but it's one of my favorites. I think it's a great it is a fun movie. And yeah, there's like it's the least amount of blood of any of the Scream films, but I still enjoyed it. And I think that with what Wes and Aaron Kruger were able to pull off in that movie with all the Weinstein's interference was
Yeah.
great.
I
So
think that 3, that was the best version of that movie that could have been made with everything that they had available to them to
yes,
make that movie.
absolutely.
And here I'm going to go shit on 4. I love every Scream movie, by the way. But 4 to me always felt like it was not the worst version of that story that could have been made, but it definitely felt like Wes Craven had his hands tied
He did.
with that production, and especially what we've heard of just how it was a very unpleasant experience for a lot of the crew, and maybe like not so much the cast, but the people who had worked on the first 3 movies with Craven, that it was not fun, and we know that because of the
Yeah.
they who shall not be named. But
True. And one of the
it's
things that oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say it's a different playing field here. We're not Dimension anymore. We are
Yes.
Spyglass. So I mean, there's other issues with them currently, but I
Nev
don't know
Campbell.
if production, I don't know if production meddling is one of
Right.
them, and it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there was any meddling with 5. So we'll see how
True.
6 turns out. It really is a case of just like we'll have to wait and see. But
Right.
I'm feeling confident. Like I'm hopeful that it's they're seeing what worked and what didn't work with 5, and they're going to instead double down on the things that did work. Because like you said, like 5 really is a love letter to Wes, so it's
Yeah.
possible that now that they've gotten all that out of the way, they can kind of do their own thing and just let it be like a fresh take. Because even like watching the trailer, the teaser, it didn't feel like a teaser for a Scream movie. Like
Hmm.
we didn't have any phone call. Like that's usually
Nope.
the first thing that we'll hear at the beginning of the trailer. And like that's I mean, I don't think that the phone call should ever be omitted, but I think that, and we talked about this last time I was here, of just like get rid of Stab. Like I don't want to hear anything else about
Yes.
Stab.
Yes.
And that was our fear, right? Because I think we said
Hmm.
that we didn't want this to just be like what Scream 5 did as Scream 1, whereas like Scream 6 will now just do the same thing with Scream 2 of like doing
Yes.
the like movie theater thing and
Movie
all that over.
theater. Right.
So
Yes.
yeah, I would like no Stab in this at all. Like,
Mhm.
get as little reference to it as possible. I don't want to see a traditional opening kill scene of, someone picking up a phone. Have a phone call in the movie. You can still, they did that in Scream 2, despite
True.
not having the traditional opening scene. So you can certainly have Roger L. Jackson in there, but I feel like that scene has already been done so many times, and it was never
Yeah.
going to be as good as the Drew Barrymore one. So why does that have to be a staple to every movie? Like there's so many great things that you can homage of just like opening scenes. Like I was even thinking
Yeah.
like Suspiria, like that's a wild opening scene. Like imagine like that is your opening to Scream, of like someone getting gutted and then like hung and like thrown through like a huge skylight and just like
Yeah.
dangling above like a big like public space in New York City. That'd be
Oh
crazy if
man.
they did that.
Yes, it would. And that's another thing that you bring up that oh, before I do that, um remind me, Zach, New York City. If you can remember, help me remember New York City, because I want to finish the thought on that. But before I do, real quick, Jennifer Armstrong is coming in with a $5 super chat. She says, "I'm so excited to have two great guys talking about my favorite movies. Thanks for coming on, Zach. Hashtag Stew Train."
Thanks,
Oh,
Jennifer.
awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. You're awesome. Much appreciated. And one other thing I want to say is, if you guys are having a good time, look, we got 112 folks here on the stream tonight, hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Zach's time here with us tonight, like I am, let's do me a favor. Hit that, smash that thumbs up button real quick. It takes less than 2 seconds. We've got 78 likes with 111 people. So, guys, I know we can get that number up to over 100 in the matter of 5 seconds. If everyone would just smash it right now, let's show Zach our appreciation and your appreciation for him coming on and giving his time to us tonight to talk Scream by just hitting that thumbs up button. That will let him know, you know what, you guys are having a good time, and maybe he'll come back for a third time. You know what? So just do that for me now. I would greatly appreciate it. And you know what else it does? It helps this stream get pushed out to more people right now as a recommended to watch, so they can come enjoy the conversation. So thank you guys for that. And before we get back to New York, we have another super chat. Eddie Chase coming in with a $2 super chat says, "I loved the teaser. No full trailer needed." Yes, Zach and I,
Agreed. Yeah.
100%. Do nothing else. Just show that all over the place for the rest of the 3 months, and that's all we
Mhm.
need.
I
Um,
honestly, I don't even need this teaser because like my
right.
ticket is already mentally purchased when they announced that Scream 6 is coming out. But it's nice
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
they were respectful of people who are kind of tired of seeing spoilers in
Yeah.
trailers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And something else too, guys, I want to mention. Thank you, Eddie. By the way, Eddie, you're absolutely
Thank
right,
you, Eddie.
100%. Thank you, Eddie. Um, It really helps out the channel. Guys, listen, if you have not subscribed to Zack Cherry's channel, I want to mention it right now. All right, we're in the middle of our conversation, but I want you to know, you guys, you've got to do it. Zack has got some incredible content. You gotta do it. He's got his content is fantastic. If you, I know a lot of you probably already know Zack. He's been a part of the Scream community, a big part of it for such a long time now, and such quality content and videos. And he's got a podcast. He's got a cherry picker. This is a lot of fun.
Do you have the podcast? Yeah.
Yes, we got the podcast. So go subscribe. Show Zack your love from this community if you have not done so yet. And send him a note. Go subscribe, comment on a video, and say, hey, coming over from Craven. Let him know that how much you enjoyed him coming tonight. And you're going to love his content. Oh, my gosh. It's so fun. Every time I get a notification of a new cherry picker, I'm like, what's the movie? What's it going to be? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, guys, check it out.
The cherry picker is the cherry picker is a separate channel.
Yes.
But
yes. So
but subscribe to both. You do both.
Yes.
Zack Cherry, ZACK, and the cherry picker. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, Val, the general, is helping out, putting links to Zack's channel in the chat right now. So there it is.
Thank you, Valerie.
Just smash those links. She'll put a link to the cherry picker also, so that you guys can go subscribe. So let's show Zack some love.
We've got Silent Night, Deadly Night coming out Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Oh man, yeah. I can't wait to hear your take on that. Dino says, I love the Cherry Picker podcast. Already subbed. There you go.
Thanks, Dino.
Yeah. Russell said he just subscribed to you, Zack. There we go.
Thanks, Russell.
Excellent. That's fantastic. All right. And again, lots of love for Zack, as you should. Yes. He works hard on his videos. And I love that, man. When they come out, I'm like, oh, man, it's quality stuff.
Thanks,
thank
Denisha.
You, David. Yeah, Denisha.
And David. Thank you, David.
Yeah. And real quick, we got another super chat just came in, $10 from Scott. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Thanks, Scott.
Merry Christmas. Hey, Merry Christmas, guys. I love the teaser. I look forward to Scream 6. Wouldn't mind a trailer, but don't need it. Love you all. Yeah, definitely. Well, Merry Christmas to you, Scott. I agree, man. We don't really need another trailer, but I know the feeling. Like, trust me, a part of me wants one just to see more, but the other part of me says, wait, just wait.
I want like a good old fashioned 90s style trailer with like the narration. Because we don't get that anymore. We don't get that anymore. And it's so like, it's part of the camp. And it just like, that screamed to me. Like if they really want to go back to the roots, like have that,
yes,
the classic trailer, the voice.
Yeah, man. In a day and age, or in a city of millions.
Well, even like, because like even the Scream 3 trailer, because that showed nothing. That was like, it had all the swirls and like, it's because it was sort of like the glowy Ghostface mask just like flying all over the screen, and it would just be in the first one the rules were established, and in the second one the rules were. I don't remember, but it's just like, but in the third one, I think it was like the second one, they bent the rules. Now the third one, there are no rules. And then it basically just has the Sydney line where she's just like, what do you know about trilogies? And it's just like, all I know is the third one, all bets are off. And I'm like, yes, that's all I need to see. That was perfect.
It is totally. Mm-hmm. That is, I mean, I miss those trailers because you're right. At some point, and I don't know exactly where to put the tack at, but somewhere along the timeline, they just stopped doing those. They just like quit. And I don't remember the last time I've heard a narrated trailer. It's
well, I don't remember the Scream 4 trailer had that. So I'd have to go back and watch that one. But I just love how, like in the first one, it's just like somebody's taking their love of horror movies too far. Someone with it's just like that amps up the mystery. That gets you excited for it. Whereas like, I feel like the point of a trailer is to kind of, tell a different narrative of the movie, to kind of, throw you off a bit. Like, because trailers aren't always 100% accurate. They're misleading. And I think that, to go back to that format then you don't need to show scenes or dialogue from the movie that much, and then just like leave a little bit more to the imagination, and then just to be surprised when you
Yeah.
eventually do see it.
Yes. Oh yeah, man. I miss them, and maybe fingers crossed. I just hope that. First of all, I'm with you. I feel optimistic because there were really no real big reveals or anything in the teaser, and we know with the Scream 5 trailer, it gave away so much. It showed us Amber on fire. It showed Sam stabbing Richie because they didn't crop the f- the f- the frame
Yeah, you knew that she
above
was
his
stabbing
head,
someone with a like a plaid shirt,
last shirt, and the
and
hair, man.
yeah,
You
but
know,
and even if like because people say like it shows that Amber's the killer, and it's just like, well, it doesn't show that she's the killer, but it shows that she is gonna
oh,
get like lit on
toasted,
fire, and it
right?
shows all these other people getting stabbed. Like I think it showed Vince getting stabbed, it
Yes,
showed
yes,
Chad getting stabbed, it showed
yep,
Mindy on like the brink of getting stabbed.
hmm,
So and then it showed Tara getting stabbed. So just like, okay, use
right.
now. I mean, and I think it showed Richie getting attacked. So I mean, obviously these movies do a thing where they try to throw you off the scent of the killer by having their
Mhm.
partner attack them. But I still like when you show every single person getting attacked, you go into that movie and you anticipate it. You're like, oh, we're getting to the hospital now, so we know what's going to happen here.
Exactly.
That they didn't show like Dewey getting killed, but I think that
Oh,
a lot of us might have
yeah,
been able to predict that could have happened
100%,
anyway. So it's just
100%.
so they showed us all the things that they shouldn't have, and then kept the things out that we probably would have figured out on our own. So it's definitely, there's a strategy to it, and I know that like before the 5 trailer came out, they were even saying like it's delayed, we're working on it, we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and then they did it completely wrong. And I know it's
Completely
not,
wrong.
it has nothing to do with radio silence, and,
No,
and
no, it's
that's
the marketing.
yeah. But there definitely should be creative control when it comes to things
Hmm.
like that, because I don't trust
Yeah.
Paramount at all. Paramount are
No.
just as distributors are, they've got their heads up their asses. So don't,
Yeah.
hopefully there's more involvement just with radio silence, just in terms of monitoring what
Yes.
what is like being released, when the inevitable full trailer does drop.
Yes. And I think one of the biggest, perhaps the biggest mistake, arguably, was that radio silence made this movie. And if you didn't see any trailers at all, if you notice how it was shot in the third act when they were at Amber's house, they were filming everything so tight to not show the exterior of the house. When
Mhm.
Chad's outside and he gets stabbed, they don't show you the house. They just you see a little bit of the porch, you see the bushes, whatever, a
Yeah.
garage or a shed, and then inside they're very tight. They don't want you to know they're in Stu's house. This is how the
Yeah.
radio silence is doing, and they intentionally are filming it this way. And then what happens whenever Sydney finds out? She sees the address, right? And then she calls Sam, and Sam's like, hello. She's like, you got to get out of that house. She says, that's Stu Macher's house where they killed your dad and him, kill those people.
Yeah.
Well, then they do the big pan out to show us Stu's house. And Radio Silence said that was meant to be a surprise. Like that was
Yeah.
supposed to be a moment we were like, oh my gosh, Zack, they're at Stu's house.
Yeah, and it
But
it
what
would have
happened?
been because they did the thing to get the beer where instead going to go to the basement, which we never saw before, rather than the garage.
That's
But I think
yes.
that the problem with that is that when they were filming, everyone was taking pictures. Like I think Kevin Williamson took
Hmm.
pictures outside
Yes.
of the facade that they built. So everyone knew about it. Like the only people that would have been surprised by it are the people who don't even know that it's meant to be a surprise. Like I'm sure if I'm sure if I showed this movie to my mother, and she's seen all of them. I've shown them all to her, except for the new one. I don't think she's seen it. But if like she was to watch that, I don't like, she'd be like, oh, I don't even think she would question it. But it's just like, the people who this was meant for as a surprise had already had it spoiled for them.
Yes.
So it's,
Yes.
again, it's just like, it's setting up the wrong people for the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's so, I mean, to me, like what they did in Scream 3 was so much more effective of the reveal of the set of the
Yeah.
Mocker house and all of
Yes.
that, because I mean it looked like just a generic suburban like neighborhood there, like in the
Yeah.
opening scene when they're, or not the opening, but when they were showing all the characters, introducing everyone. And it wasn't until Sydney came on the set that we really got the full scope of
Mm-hmm.
how closely it did resemble her house and
Yeah.
Stu's house and all that. Like, you know, it wasn't 100% like we, you know, we could have guessed that that's what it would have been, but it was just, it had more of an emotional impact. Whereas I feel like with the thing in 5, it was just kind of like like way to bury the lead, you know, like it did
Right.
not work at all.
It did not. I did not. It
Yeah.
was just like, oh, and then, you know, and the marketing department puts Stu's house all over the trailer. I mean, remember we see Ned that shot from behind, and you see the front porch, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I imagine how radio silence was had to frustrated they would have had to have been to see what they wanted to be a surprise put on the trailer
Yeah.
front and center, and so it just doesn't hit when that moment comes. We're like, well, we know where you're at, like we know,
Yeah.
you
I'd
know what I'm
like to
saying?
see, you know, I mean, sometimes people do their, like, they'll cut their own trailers together and like put them on the
Mm,
internet of just like whatever movie. Like, I'd love to see someone do the trailer for 5. And
yeah.
because I'm sure that like so many people can make that trailer so much better
Hmm.
than how it was ultimately made.
Yes, yes. Well, there's a kind of a running thing that I like to say when like because I have another channel called the Lethal Collective where it's me and Killjoy Jake and Fate Decided, Nightwatch Zone. We're over there with 4 of us together. And one of the things that we always talk about when we're talking about trailers is never show anything from the third act. Just you know, nothing from the last act. Just show your stuff from the first half of the movie or 3/4 of the movie, however, our first 2/3, however you want to say it. And
Mhm.
and even when you show that, just don't show much of it. You know, it's and we'd be a lot better for it in these studios, these marketing teams. But I will say this honestly, man, if I didn't have a channel, if I wasn't a content creator, I would not watch the next trailer. If I was just a fan before I had a trailer, I mean, before I had a channel
Yeah.
back in those days, I would ignore it. But I
Even
have
if
to watch
you,
it now.
yeah, like, well,
I have
even if
to.
you watch it or not, it's going to be on social media. People are going to be
True.
talking about it. I had that White Lotus show, which I've never seen. It was getting a lot of hype. It sounded interesting, like I might have watched it, but it's the ending was spoiled within like hours
Ah,
of the finale of just people creating
oh
all these
no.
memes. So it's just like, what, like there's
Oh,
like rules to this, like to spoilage. And
those
you
are
know,
the rules.
I googled it because I'm just like, how long do you have to wait? And even Google was just like 3 to 5 days. I'm like, that's bullshit. You got to wait months. There's a grace
Yeah,
period that lasts a really long time for things like that. Like, you know, Scream 5, as soon as people
yeah.
saw, because people will go to like the Thursday night
Right?
shows, and they'll like, and then
Mhm.
go on the internet and be like, killers are Richie and Amber.
Yep,
And, you know, here you got all these people who, you know, have day jobs, or, you know, have to wake
exactly.
up early for work. And then they see all this stuff, like they go onto Instagram without even thinking about it and then just have it spoiled for them. Like it's so
Yeah.
inconsiderate. It's just like this sense of entitlement that like you have
Mhm.
to be the first to see it. Like there's this need to be the
Yes.
first to see it because then it's like you have the power of knowledge. Like you can,
Yep.
you know, release
Mhm.
the information that's just like you're the important person. And it's just like,
Right.
that's really
That's right.
the worst kind of person. Like if you do that, you're
Yes.
terrible.
Yeah, that's terrible, man.
Yeah.
Because like on my channel, it's a spoiler-free channel. Like like I'll discuss rumors, I mean, and theories all day long. I mean, I love that. You know,
Yeah.
rumors are fine, but if it's a bona fide spoiler, like actually someone's seen the movie and they know what's going to happen, that I like no, because you know,
Yeah.
like you said, there's a respect thing, man, and just like I don't want anyone ruining my experience, I don't want to ruin anybody else's, you know. And if
Mhm.
when I do spoiler discussions here, I make it very clear, you know, this, you know, all capital spoiler discussion. Do not come if you don't want to know spoilers, you know, because I
Mhm.
don't want, you know, you don't want someone accidentally thinking one thing and then you're just dropping a bomb. The worst, though, And I'm not calling anyone out, because that's not how I am. That's not how I flow. But
Yeah.
just in general rule, the worst thing is people who, for some reason, want to put a screenshot thumbnail of a spoiler, like for Dewey for 5, right?
Yeah.
There were content creators on that Friday, Saturday, already showing, like, already having a picture and calling it like something about, I can't believe Dewey died, and they're putting that in a thumbnail, which is
Yeah.
going to pop up on your
Unbelievable.
feed. Yeah, it's like you can't even like not
Yeah.
see it. It's like that's really the
Yeah.
worst for me, Zach, when you do that stuff. That's even
Then you also have the other end of the spectrum where, there's people who, I have a video that like, it's like, who killed who? It's just like Billy or Stu. I think that was in the thumbnail. Like, it just said the words, and people are just like, you
oh
spoiled the movie in the thumbnail. I'm just like, it's 25 years old. Like
right.
there's a grace period.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong,
Oh
there's a
yeah.
grace period, but
Yes.
there's not like, it doesn't last decades, it's
Oh, come on now. Yeah.
at least
No.
a year. I was watching like an interview of Jenna Ortega, and she was talking about X, and then or she was doing the thing where she, where they like peel the Google search terms off, and it
Oh
was just
yeah.
something about like, does Jenna Ortega survive X? And she's just like, I won't say what the answer is here, just in case no one's seen it. But she's like, I think the movie's been out long enough. I'll just like reveal the answer, and then like said whether she did or not. Just like, okay, like I feel like it's been enough time as well. Like it's been out, but still, like that, at least there was preparation for it. There was a warning,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
agree. Enough time had passed at that point. It was just like at least, like 8 months or
Oh yeah.
by then. So that's cool. But like the next day, that like the same week, like give it a few months
Yeah. Yeah. I
at
agree.
least. And
Yep.
even in those first few months, just be like, hey, like, put a spoiler warning or things like that. So just getting back to when the inevitable trailer comes out, even if you and I watch it or not, it's someone's going to have a still, and it's going to show up on Instagram. You're going to open your Instagram. It's going to be the first post that pops up. It's going to be in a story feed. So
it's true, man.
I feel like I'd rather like watch it in the trailer before, and at least let that be my surprise by seeing it in the trailer, rather than getting frustrated because someone posted it on Instagram.
100%, man. At least then you do control the spoiler yourself. Yeah, you're the one. I'm just gonna go watch it. Then on anything I see out there, it's not gonna be a surprise. I already know. Yeah, I'm with you, 100%, man. And plus, let's face it, man. It's fun to do. It's fun to watch and get theories, man. I love doing possible connect the dots and theories, and it's what's so fun about a Scream movie, because most movies aren't like that. It's not a mystery. You go to Halloween, you go to Friday 13th, you go see Freddy. You know who these people are. There's not like a whodunit factor or anything, and it's just a matter of who can survive and what's the story. But for Scream, we always have these connections to previous films, and the theories of who it could be, because it's a whodunit, and it's so fun. You only get that opportunity until it comes out, obviously. So we have 3 months, less than 3 months now, till we can have this fun period, what I call it, of just like what we're doing tonight, theorizing, discussing possibilities. That's the fun period for me, man.
Yeah, there's the who done it, there's also the why done it, and I think that's that was really overlooked in 5. I hated their motive because it was linked to Stab, obviously,
right?
But I think that like there's a lot of like theorizing and conjecturing and all that just put into like who it is, and it's just like, well, now it's got to be 3 killers this time because it was too stale to have like 2 again or whatever, or it's going to be like a whole slew of them. It's a cult, right? And it's just like, whatever they do, they don't need to do that, but if they do it, like the important thing should be the why, because that's like Scream 1, Billy and Stu are pretty obvious, maybe one more than the other, of just like being the killer in that movie. Like the surprise then was kind of like that there were two.
was
But the
both of
surprise
them.
is
Yeah.
also of just like, but why? What's the motive? And then finding out
Mhm.
that, it's, like because of the parents. And then the obviously the in 2, it's the surprise that, it's already a surprise that it's the reporter, Debbie Salt, but then to find out another layer to that is that it's Billy's mother. That's the why then becomes like the even bigger reveal of the thing. Whereas like with 5, it was just kind of like, I think they were revealed, like Amber got revealed first, right? And then she got revealed a second time too, which whatever. Like they almost fake out like 3 killers. And it was just by that point it was so telegraphed that like Richie was gonna be revealed as the other one. But I was thinking, okay, so what is their angle here? And then they're going into the kitchen and he's like, nobody's made a really good stab movie in a long time. I'm like, okay. And it like that was it. I mean, it was like, it's a good idea and it's relevant too, because there's definitely something to be said for toxic fandom, but it didn't have the emotional punch that any of the other kind of like the motives that we got in the past. So I hope that with 6, whatever the case may be, of like whether it be 1 killers or 2 or 3 or more, I want something good. I don't want another like this is Richie's older brother or mother or father, and like don't do that again. Just
Zack, I'm telling you, I'm concerned about the Debbie Salt 2.0. I've been saying for months about that. Like, you've got Dermot Mulroney, you've got Segura, you've got Henry Czerny.
Yeah.
What if Radio Silence is going to be, or Jay and Guy rather, are going to mimic the Debbie Salt 2.0 with a man this time? I mean, I don't know. I hope not.
Well, okay, here's my theory, because I think that it's going to be a Debbie Salt type, not in a sense that it's going to be someone related to someone from the past, but it's going to be what I refer to as a hidden in plain sight killer, because we haven't the last one we really had, the only one we really had was Mrs. Loomis. It's just like a character who's kind of just in the background. They come in, like we know who they are, but we don't really consider them as being integral to the plot. And I think it's going to be a character like that who is just flies under the radar. Nobody's like, by the time they're revealed, everyone will have forgotten about them. So I think that's going to be one of the killers at least. And, we'll hopefully be the reason, whatever we find out the motive is for this. But I don't think that if they do go that route, which I do think it'll be like someone hidden in plain sight, I don't think it'll be a parent or a relative. Because everyone, like Billy's mother, Sydney's brother, Sydney's cousin, we've done that to death. We don't need another family member of any. And I guess you could even say Sam is Billy's daughter, even though she's not the killer. But that was sort of their plan, was to frame her as the killer because she's Billy's daughter. So I think that the family member angle has been played out. You can be connected to someone without being a blood relative.
True.
Find a new angle.
Yes, absolutely. And Eddie's coming in now. I've got a super chat that's come in. Eddie's bringing in a $10 super chat, and this kind of ties in, Zach, with what we were just talking about. He said, if you guys were in charge of direction of Scream 6, where would you go for to be fresh and cutting edge and not more of what we've seen? There you go. Something that would be divisive by fans, but liked by most. So, you're not going to please all the fan base. I don't care where you land the movie. Some section is going to be unhappy. That's just the reality. But still liked by most. That makes sense. So Zach, that's a good question. If Zach Cherry is directing the film or co-writing it, what would you do, man? Where would you take this story?
Well, I would take it out of Woodsboro, which they've already done. So that's one thing. Remove any reference to Stab, just anything to do with references to that franchise and the fact that it's a franchise within a franchise. Like, it's just based off of everything. Go back to the original, like what they did in the original of what Kevin Williamson's really like plan was with his script is to show that this is a movie that takes place in real life, that these are characters who are influenced by the horror genre, and not influenced by a movie that is based on events that happened within the movie. Because that was the biggest problem, is the Stab introduced into the Scream franchise, that really pigeonholed it into having to repeat the same thing over and over again, like we see with like the phone call scene at the beginning. It doesn't always need to be doing the same thing. Like focus on there's a huge, like there's a plethora of horror movies out there that have been untouched by this franchise, of just things that they can reference. Because I mean, like the phone call thing, that's real. That all it is when a stranger calls. And it, like I said, it's been done with Drew Barrymore. Find a different movie. They in Scream 2 they did He Knows You're Alone for the movie theater, and that made an excellent set piece. So you can start there. Find another horror movie and that hasn't been touched by Scream yet, and make that your opening, and then just go from there. Like weave whatever the storyline is, weave it through homages that are not homages to the franchise. Like stop repeating yourself in a sense of this. Like this tagline for the movie is New York, New Rules, which everyone keeps bringing it up. It's like, but it's new rules, and literally every movie since then has said new rule. Like Scream 4 was like New Generation, New Rules.
New decade, new
rules. New decade, new rules. Like it's always, they always say new rules. Like if you're gonna make up a tagline like that, live up to the promise. Like show us that this is not the same cut and dry. We're just gonna do the same old things, because they're like in 5, like even Dewey says like something about this just feels different, and it's like, no, it doesn't. Yeah. This, if anything, something about this feels exactly the same.
That's right. I know, that's an interesting comment he made, because I remember when they put that in the trailer, something about this one just feels different, and I was like, oh, we all like all excited. I'm like, oh, what's it gonna be that's so different? Like, what's the undercurrent he's feeling? And it really was the same. It really wasn't different. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was the alcohol talking. Poor Dewey.
Yeah,
poor guy. He was living in the bottle.
And I mean, and the writing, because I just
it's the writing.
I think like you need to focus on logic, and I mean, because like not every Scream movie is perfect, other than the first one. But it's what frustrated me about the third act of 5 was just like kind of how you have Sydney and Gale come to the house, and Gale gets shot by Amber, who's like full on, like not in costume, goes out there, shoots Gale, runs back into the house. There's nothing like at that point, if Sydney and Gale die, that just like really undermines their intelligence as characters, because all they needed to do to survive was get on the phone and just be like, hey, police, like, can you please come down to Stu Macher's old house, because we just got shot by this girl. She's about yay high, dark hair, lives here. I think she's the killer. I have guns. I'm going to go in or whatever. But just so you know, she's one of the killers. So if we die, you'll know who they are. But at that point on, of just like going in and everything's happening, and they're like, we're watching 2 killers being so cocksure that they're going to get away with it. And it's like, it's not even like brought up at all that, okay, well, Sydney still has her cell phone on her. She's had her cell phone on her for the last 15 minutes, ever since she saw who the killer was. Like, why nobody reported this, or why they would even go in without, they could have turned around and gone to the hospital. It just, kind of writing is so lazy. Like, look at every angle, make sure that there's no cracks, that you're going to run into problems. Like, I get, like, my justification for all of that with Amber and Richie is that they're idiots. So it was kind of like, okay, they were like super unprepared. It makes sense. They got the shit killed out of them. But with Sydney, like that kind of like, I feel like would she really be that careless. Like, she would have to be so sure that, like, this is nothing. I got this, to go into that house and go after them. So I just want to make sure that they're writing their characters at least somewhat realistically, because, like I said, this is a franchise that's based in reality. So don't forget that. Like remember that these are real people in a real world. The horror movies are, you know, that's the fiction. That's what this is all based on, of like whatever the killer's plan is.
Yeah, man. 100%. Love it. I agree with everything you said, man. I think we're tracking together on this. And I think the only thing I would add, I think, Eddie, is just that, you know, because you guys know I'm the self-professed conductor of the Stu Train. And, you know, I know Kevin Williamson, the whole article in Collider came out. I posted a video about this morning, came out at 9 o'clock this morning. I do a full video response to that article and what my thoughts are. So I won't get into that now. Go check out the video. But I do acknowledge it. I know it's out there. Doesn't change my viewpoint at all. And I give you reasons why. So I still, what I'd like to see, and I'm going to take this down just for a second because I want to show this image here. I think I still have it. Yeah. So Zach, let's just jump right in here because this ties into what I would to see. Look at this beautiful shot from Entertainment Weekly, this exclusive image. Now here we go. We have a vintage OG crusty old mask, and that type of deterioration does not happen in a year. That is that's an old mask. That's a 20-year-old mask. And so that does not automatically mean someone from 20 years ago is back. It could be someone that is a new character who, you know, stole this mask, has access to it, is wearing it, trying to embody Stu or Billy. I mean, that's a very real possibility. But what I love about this, though, Zach, is that it does, in my mind, and I'm going to get your thoughts on it now because we have not discussed this yet. It opens at least the door that someone from the past could be back. You know, now in my mind, I want it to be Stu. I don't want him in 6. I want him in 7. I've said that up for a while now because I'm still hopeful, Zach, that we're going to get Nev Campbell in 7. So I still hope they'll work out finances next year and get that done. So personally, just me speaking now, even though I want Stu back, I don't even really want him in this movie. I want him in the next one if I was writing it. However, if he's there, I will, of course, take it and run. But that's who I want to be involved because I love the idea that, and Zach, I know we talked a little bit last time, just a tad, how I felt there were breadcrumbs in 5 that point us to Stu. And I put videos out talking about it. And so that it's at least subtle breadcrumbs there. Now, I know that you're not a fan of Stu coming back, and I respect that completely. And that's totally fine. That we view it differently. It's not a big deal. But I do want to get your thoughts on who you think might be behind this mask or what you think is going on, maybe is a better question, with this OG mask that clearly they're making it so important that they're putting that mask on the title card. There it is again. That's the old crusty mask. And it's on the poster, Zach.
When you say OG mask, because like, is it the same mold that we see in the first one? I don't know. Like, people talk about the masks and like the little nuances between them from like movie to movie. I honestly get so confused by all of that. I don't know anything about the mask other than the KNB variant, which is not that one. So I just wanted to just clarify, when you say OG, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. No, it's a good question. I'm merely saying a mask used by one of the original killers. This could be a Stu mask, a Billy mask. You know,
does it say that in the promotional photo?
Oh, no. It's just the images that we have of the old mask, and we see it there, and we see here. Because here's the thing: in the subway attack, it's not this mask.
It's not that mask. Yeah.
No.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, when you're saying the old mask, you just mean like the cracked mask.
Yeah, the
Like
crack
it's like
mask. That's a better
the
way.
weathered. Okay, I just
Yeah, the weathered
wanted to
mask.
make sure I wasn't missing because
Yeah,
I guess it's sort of like the Michael Myers 2018
yeah. Right.
to
Yes,
the 1978. Yeah, I
that's right.
don't I don't know. I mean, it could just like denote that this is a different killer from the one on the subway, or maybe the one on the
Mhm.
subway is not a killer. Maybe that's just what we see as just someone fucking with them, or they recognize who they are because they're
Right.
survivors and they're just like, I'm gonna give them a scare. So maybe that whole bit in the subway is not actually the killer, or at least
Yeah.
the part with Mindy looks like it might be a different scene. But
Yes, I agree.
the yeah, I don't think that it could conceivably be anyone from the past, because
Okay.
nobody from the past, or at least like especially in 96, like who could it be? I mean, like, I know that you'd think it was Stu, but
Yeah,
even if it wasn't him,
if it
like
wasn't
who else would it
Sue,
would it be? The Billy's father, or the
right?
Sheriff Burke, or like,
Well,
why though?
here's another name, Zach. It could be Leslie Mocker because she was around in '96. So Leslie Mocker, Stu's sister, and that was another theory that I thought of. I'm like, what if this actually is Leslie, who has this mask that she found at the house after all those events. She got the mask. She's kept it all these years. Her son gets murdered in 5, and she's going to take out her revenge. And she's blamed Sam
But
and
okay,
Tara because,
but who is she taking her revenge on? The
well, in
person
my mind,
who killed her son is dead.
it would be, if they went this route,
Yeah.
it would be the mindset of, I can't kill them because they're dead, but I can kill the person that's responsible. Because if it wasn't for you, Sam, my son would not be killed. He was died because of your involvement here and
Yeah.
you basically caused these events to happen. And
So
that's the
Leslie
only
is
way I
going
can
to
think of it.
so Leslie is going to be irrational.
Yes,
Okay.
like
I mean,
a
like
lot of like a
like
lot
a
of
lot of
psychopaths would
like
be.
killers, yeah, in
Yeah,
this.
right.
I just think it's so tenuous for, for that connection of just kind of like, I've seen this before. I've seen, when people say like, well, maybe Sydney's going to be the killer this time. And it's just like, well,
Oh no,
why? And
no.
it's like, well, because she's so tired of being the victim that she's just like, she wants to get revenge. And I'm like, on
No,
who? On
right,
who though? like,
right.
well, just like they're just the general population, and like, fuck that. So yeah. I
Exactly.
mean, and then another thing is like, if it's Leslie Mocker, like who's in the cast is playing her, unless there's like another cast member who has not been revealed yet, of just like
Right.
a middle-aged woman,
Mhm.
because we have the whole cast,
True.
and the only person that would like come even close to that age bracket is Courtney Cox.
Right.
And like surprise, like Gale Weathers is actually related to Stu.
Okay.
I don't think that there'd be anything like that. So
Well, Zach,
I
did you see that picture though of Radio Silence at a picnic, and they had a picture with Heather Langenkamp was with them who played Nancy in Nightmare 1 '84.
mhm.
And now her husband they own a special effects company. So it could have been that maybe their company's doing the effects for 6, but it was very interesting how they're having this party here with Radio Silence and the producers and Heather Langenkamp. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't please, is Heather Langenkamp gonna
And surprise
have a
cameo.
surprise cameo? Yes,
Yeah.
that would be
I mean,
insane. But I
I
don't.
mean, possibly like maybe the killer is not actually like, like the killer is on this poster. They're not actually on it. Like they're just like full on, like that's how hidden
Mhm.
in plain sight they are, that this is someone who's just like, the Carrie Fisher of Scream 3. Just like, imagine
Yeah.
if like, Carrie Fisher came out at the end to
Mhm.
reveal that she is the killer. I don't know how.
Or the
I
mastermind,
mean,
even.
it would be novel, but I don't know how
Yeah.
successful it would work for people. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think that if there is a connection, I just can't see it being like a Scream 96 one, because nobody's in this movie other than Gale who has any connection to that story. Like, all these people weren't alive when that happened. I mean, like, except for Kirby, was probably, I don't
She's
know
a
what
kid.
her age is in canon. Well, she was like 17 in 4, so she was in like 2 or 3
Yeah,
in
she'd have been like,
96.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Yeah,
and
I mean,
even with
it's just,
Gale, like, because Gale has no, that's another thing, because of just people saying like it's Stu. Like, I know you're saying like you want to see Stu in 7, because it wouldn't make any
yes.
sense to have Stu in this. Like, it wouldn't, like, this would be the last movie that you'd want, even if Stu was alive, to bring Stu back in, because Sydney is not in it. Nev Campbell's
Yeah.
not in it. And that's the only connection that would make any sense, because none of these people, like, not that they don't know of who Stu is, but Stu doesn't know any of these people.
Well, I have a theory
And
about that, Zach, if you want to hear it. I actually have a theory on, in my mind, it makes sense that Stu returns, and it has nothing at all to do with Sydney. Because, and the reason I say that is, remember in Scream 1, you know, it was Billy's motive with Sydney. It wasn't Stu. It was never like he was killing because he loved to kill. Remember what he said? It was fun. You know, he was like Mickey. He killed because he liked it. He liked it. And Billy's motive was to kill Sydney, not Stu. And then, but here's the even bigger than that though. My thought is, and I want to bounce it off of of you. So, if they were going to bring Stu back, which we don't know for sure if they're going to, but if they were, my thought was the best relationship Stu has ever had that we've seen, at least the closest, who was the person closest to him, who he was, was best friends with, super close with, even killed with them, was Billy Loomis, right? They were like inseparable, and when Billy died, he lost him, and he's had no one to have that kind of relationship with again. Like that was once in a lifetime. Well, he finds out that Sam now is his son. I mean, sorry, his daughter. Billy has a daughter, an offspring. So my thinking is, well, you could write it this way, where Billy is longing to restore the Loomis connection. And this is the first person he's ever had a chance to do it with again. And she's an adult. She's not like a little kid. She's in her mid 20s. So my thought was, Zach, if you were to do it, you would have a situation where he infiltrates Sam's life away from everyone else. And this is not the only way that you could do it, but that's one way. And then at the end, he builds rapport as the movie goes, and then eventually he reveals who he really is. Or you can just have it where he straight up doesn't reveal, and he's after Sam because he wants to rekindle that relationship
but
to
sorry,
try to recruit.
question, because there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
questions.
Oh, I know.
How,
I'm going
but like,
quick. I
what do you
know.
mean with like reveal who he is? Like, I'm like she wouldn't recognize who he is, or do you mean
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, that's
or do you
one
mean he
way.
would
Like,
be like he would be under the mask the whole time?
yes, correct. And
Okay.
the only time that Sam would see him, like here's one scenario. You've got Sam working at a coffee shop, like a Starbucks kind of place, or a bar, or any of those kind of situations where it's not uncommon for someone to come regularly and sit down for an hour. That kind of scenario.
Mhm.
And if Sam's working there, and let's say that Stu knows it, and so he's been stalking her, he knows her routine, and so he goes in and meets her, infiltrates her, because now we don't know what he's going to look like now, right? He's probably had some facial surgery. We know he has scarring, unless that's been fixed in surgery. So, and she has, and the last picture of him was when he was 17. He's nearly 50 years old now in the Scream world. And so
Okay. Well,
let's go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
just, yeah, well, first of all, there, why is he not in prison? Like,
Well,
that's like that's the first one. The second one
yep.
is, like, even, like if he was released or whatever, which is like completely implausible, like he's serving probably like 5 or 6 life sentences. Like he's, committed murder, he assisted in murder, he like conspiracy to murder, attempted murder. Like he's gonna die in prison, and even if for some reason he wasn't in prison, his face is gonna be everywhere. Like people are gonna know what a serial killer looks like.
Yeah. Well,
Like that's
and
that's my that's my gripe with what you're saying. But
yeah.
please, like,
Yeah, no, there's and believe me, there's different avenues to go. And certainly with the prison thing, I'm not as big a fan of the prison thing. I know a lot of people are, and I think it takes a lot of heavy lifting. That's how I say it. It does take some heavy lifting. But we got to remember this too though. And I love this, and Wes Craven's quote he said one time was, "If I wanted to film reality, I would make documentaries." And I've never forgotten that phrase because there, and Matthew Lillard himself even says, I got a video of it here. He even says all the time, he's like, you know, when they bring me back one day, which is what they do in horror movies, the killer comes back, and I'm like, there's a certain level of these movies. And I know that Scream is grounded in realism, in reality, so it's a little different than some of the other franchises. I give you that for sure. But at the same time, it really just takes a writer to sit down and have a decision to say, you know what, like Guy Busick, he's admitted he is like the biggest Stu fan, Stu truther. I think it was Tyler said, Guy's like the biggest Stu truther of the creative team, and he's always trying to find a way to get him in, you know. And I'm like, oh, right there, just knowing one of the writers already's there, he could simply write something where, and my biggest thing, Zach, is versus prison, is that I think that everyone assumed he was dead and that it was a faked death scenario. And that you'd have to, again, you have to explain there how that would work. But either way,
okay, but that's the thing I hear. Like every time someone has like a really great idea, there's like, this is how we're going to bring Stu back. And then they say, but I guess we'll have to explain how that works, and just gloss over
yeah,
that part. And that's not like,
yeah.
you can't do, that's why it would never happen. Cause it's just like, you can't just explain why that didn't happen. Like it's because it's not that simple. It's not
Well, like,
something you can just fix with like a few words. Like people are
yeah.
going to have a lot of questions.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
okay, here, I don't want to see this. I just want to put that out there before I, pitch this idea. But if there was ever a scenario where Stu came back, this is what I think would be the best way to do that. And that would be, Sydney would have to be in the movie. There's no way around it. Like Stu cannot just be in a movie with some new people that have no connection to him, or even if they have like a secret connection to him. Like we all saw how successful that was with Roman and Sydney. Like, people didn't respond to that as positively as they could have. So Sydney would have to be back. And what would have had to happen is that Stu, for some reason, again, this is the thing where it comes in, just like he's been released from prison, he's on probation or whatever. Maybe it's, we find out that he actually didn't kill everyone. Maybe he only killed one person, and Billy killed everyone else. He was sort of like, has a really good lawyer that's, got this appeal for him, and they got him on probation, and he's now out in society, but like being closely watched. There's a lot of people who don't trust him. He shows back up. He's in the public eye, almost like this celebrity figure, very much like what Cotton Weary was in Scream 2. And we would have the whole interaction of, not necessarily the same thing of like trying to get an interview with Sydney and Stu, but a situation like that where he's, like Cotton is just kind of like, I want to be all about like forgive and forget, something like that. And just how obviously Sydney would not be okay with that. But you would have these murders concurrently happening, and who's going to be the number one suspect? It's going to be Stu. So you can then have Matthew Lillard come back in this role and be in this movie and be under like constant scrutiny and, you know, be suspicious, and we don't know if he's the killer or not. You know, they can decide if they want to make him the killer. I think it would probably be better if he wasn't the killer, but somehow saw sort of like, you know, almost like the unused Scream 2 script where Cotton found kind of like an advantage of, you know, how he can get his revenge or something, while other people did all the killing, and then like that was his entry point back in. But I think that would be the best way to do it. Like, I don't think that there should be a surprise of like unmasked, oh, it's Stu, and then like, oh well,
no, I don't either.
I was secretly alive, because that if someone died, like a high profile murder spree like that, if one of the killers was not dead, they're not like, there's not going to be a secret society of like the Thorn cult who's going to like whisk him away and say, well, you know, he was killed, he was taken to the morgue, but really we have him alive and he's in a facility and we're preparing him for something. Like, there's nothing like that. It's if he's still alive, people would know about it. So there's people argue that in 5, Dewey talks about Stu in the present tense.
Right.
But at the same time, like Randy talked about Stu in the past tense. So, you know, there's really no, I get it. There's some opinions that say he's dead. There's others that say he isn't. I think for me, like Kevin Williamson confirmed it for a reason, that they're not going to do it. But if it was to happen, that's what I would want to see. If I had to see a Stu come back, is to, you know, have him be like the new like suspicious like Cotton Weary character, trying to show that he's turned his life around, he's served his time, and he's now, you know, ready to, you know, find forgiveness and acceptance in society. But, you know, can he be trusted? You know,
exactly.
You know, that's the thing. Otherwise, I want nothing of it. You know, keep him dead. All the killers should be dead. And you know, and another thing, like I think that if he was alive, I think that they've kind of missed that boat as well, because I think that the best person to have gone toe to toe with Stu probably would have been Dewey, because Dewey has that connection to Stu in the fact that Stu's kind of responsible for his sister's death. Like, that's like a huge thing that Dewey has had to live with, or had to live with for, you know, the rest of his life. Up until the point that he died. That, you know, if you were going to have someone come in and like this big emotional face off, it would have been Dewey.
It would have been cool. It would have been cool. And like I say, I'm with you on the fact that if it does happen, it would be, you know, I really want it in 7, because I really would love Sydney to be there. My view differs from yours a little bit too, in that I do think that even if Sydney's not there, it could be done really powerfully if it's written well. But it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is how much do we trust the current writing crew, right? Because they're the ones that are be writing this story to connect the dots for us. And I don't know, it's a little scary. And it's a proposition like, and after Lethal Collective the other day, we've talked about this. And the question came up is, okay, you know, so let's say Stu comes back, but do you trust this writing team to be the team that brings him back? Or was it better to wait until maybe Scream 8 and we get a different writing team, you know, or whatever?
Are they contracted to do another one?
Well, nothing's been announced as far as 7, but there was an interesting article that I talked about the other day. I'm trying to remember who it was. It may have been Entertainment Weekly, but one of them said, it was a reputable place, and they were saying something about Jack Champion. It was a Jack Champion interview, and the article ended with saying, we'll have to wait and see if he survives for the 7th entry. And I said, whoa, wait a second. That's the first time. Now, doesn't mean that they know something for sure, but I thought it was interesting how this person used that language. It wasn't just like, we'll have to wait and see if he survives the movie. It was, we'll have to wait and see if he survives to make it in the seventh entry. So I don't know. It's
Yeah.
nothing official though, but it wasn't. But remember this: I believe that personally, based on what happened with Scream 6, we found out that they rented the production offices in Montreal on they signed the paperwork. It was July the 12th is when it went through. 2 days before Scream 5 came out, they already secured the location, production offices for Scream 6 to be filming. And 5 had not even come out yet. So they were
Mhm.
already committed to 6 before 5 hit the box office. And I have a suspicion that 7 could easily be already approved and working on the outline. And that's why 6 was so fast tracked because I remember how fast it was moving. Remember
Mhm.
they announced a new one. Then they announced they're going to film it
Yeah. Well,
like 3 months. I'm like, what?
yeah. Well, like strike while the iron's hot,
Yep, yep,
for
yep.
sure. Because it's just like, now that Halloween has ended,
Yeah,
you got someone's got to fill up that mantle, and Scream already has one foot in the door, so it can
true.
continue on if they want to do that. But I don't think that anything needs to be kind of like framed as a trilogy. Like, I like every Scream movie being a standalone story.
Hmm.
Obviously there's like connective tissue, like the original
Right.
trilogy is the trilogy. However, that was kind of retconned to be a trilogy. So, I mean, even if they do that, but I don't want them to kind of do a Halloween 2018 trilogy thing where it's just like, now, like this year it's going to be Halloween Kills, and the next year is going to be Halloween Ends, because
Hmm.
it's almost like we saw what happened with those movies, and they promised us something, and I think that was their mistake, because then it sort of set up these expectations that everyone had, and they like nothing was set in stone just in terms of like what the story was going to be. So it was written and rewritten so many times that there's
Hmm.
no cohesiveness to it. So if Scream, maybe they're seeing like what the mistakes of Blumhouse was, and they're just being like,
Oh
well, we're
yeah.
planning on doing a 6 and 7, but we're not going to announce right now that like 2023 it's going to be 6, and then in
Yeah.
2024 it's going to be 7, and it's going to complete the story of Sidney Prescott again, or the story of Sam and Tara Carpenter, or whatever it is. So they don't want to they don't want to like already commit to something that they're going to have to then do the work on. It's easier to kind of see what works and then kind of go from there. So by the time they do get to a seventh one, they can kind of go back, and if they want to make a connection, they
Yeah.
can do it then.
Yeah. I mean, and that that's the other thing. Like, if there is another, if 7 is, and I do believe they'll get a 7, partly because the amount of money that Spyglass and Lantern had to have spent, Zach, to get those rights of the Scream and Stab
Mhm.
franchises. I don't know how much it was. They didn't disclosed it, but that probably that had to be at least 2 or 300 million dollars. I mean, to buy all those rights.
I don't
I
know
that,
what I mean, they actually got like all of the Miramax library, because they didn't just buy
mhm.
Scream.
Yeah, yeah,
They because it wasn't it was like Lantern, and then Spyglass formed with them, but it was an auction, and they got everything that like falls under the studio, so they could conceivably like make a sequel to um the Faculty. I mean, like,
oh well,
if
wouldn't that be
something like
great?
that ever happened, or something, if they own that. um and they have Hellraiser as well. So I don't know, like, I think that from what I remember, like back in 2020 or 2019, when I first heard about it and was doing research, is that they
Yeah,
actually got it for quite a steal. And
really.
there was issue that came afterwards. I don't know, like it must have been settled out of court, because there
Uh-huh.
were Weinstein victims who were then going after them and saying that they were entitled to like a portion of something, because like that money that was going in, like still being brought in by the Dimension and Miramax and all of that, they still had part of for their funds, and Spyglass was supposed to release that and they never did. So I just because I never heard anything about that again, and things kind of like went back on track, I'm assuming it was settled out of court, out of like the public eye. But it did, like, Gary Barber, the CEO of Spyglass, like he's rolling in it. He's got so much money. So I don't think that,
Wow.
like, because before that he was with MGM.
Oh, wow.
I believe so. I mean, we say like it's like it's lots of money, but like for him, I don't think it was that high risk. So and it goes back, and it makes you think, like, why were they so stingy with Neve Campbell that they couldn't,
Right?
pay her what she wanted? So those are my concerns with like Spyglass.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like that sketchiness of their of being cheap, because I think that how much did 5 gross?
It hit like right around 150 worldwide.
And what was Halloween Kills? I know like Halloween Kills, like
Kills was 140, 150 for Kills.
Yeah, so Scream did better.
Yes.
Than Halloween Kills. And it probably, I don't know like which one cost more to make. I don't know if you have that information.
That's a good question. I know 24 to 25 million was Scream 5.
Yeah.
Bye, Maverick. Take care, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. And let me see. I believe I have to look it up. Now you got me curious, man, about the Halloween Kills budget. Let's see what it was. My thinking is, as I'm looking it up, okay, Halloween Kills was $20 million budget. Scream 5 was like $24 million budget, $25 million right there.
I'm just looking at all the movies here. So Scream 2 was 24 million, 3 was 40, 4 was 40.
4 was 40.
And I don't know if these are adjusted for inflation, but
no, it wasn't. It was 40 million in 2011.
So they definitely 25 is a lot like they went up and then they went down, and obviously 5 did much better than 4, because 4 was kind of a disaster for the box
Terrible
office.
Marketing on 4 too.
Oh, it's awful. But
awful marketing. That movie would have made a lot more money.
And do we know what the budget is for 6?
Yeah, they went up 10 million. They went to 35 mil.
Okay.
So they gave him an extra 10 million to play with.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, if that thing does if it does it, 100 plus, like 120 to 150, in my mind, that's locks in 7. Like there's no way. It's too much money to be made on. If you could spend 35 million and get 150 back, it's like all day long. Let's go. Yes, please. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter then of how long are they going to wait? Are they going to do the pace they're doing now, where we just go bang, bang, bang,
like 1 year at a time?
Yeah, like 1 year.
I could have used more time between 5 and 6, to be honest. Like I'm glad that we're getting it. Don't get me wrong, but we'll see. Because I really love 2, and I think that just in terms of like the quality of that movie, considering the turnaround of how quickly that was made from the original, they did so well. So we'll see how Radio Silence and the Spyglass team does it, but I don't know. That'll certainly dictate what the steps moving forward would be, because we might end up waiting another 2 or 3 years, because I think it was just over 2 years between Scream 2 and 3.
Yes, they took an extra year off for Scream 3, and we got a 2-year break. And they may do the same thing. I mean, you don't want to, for us, all of us, like on this live stream, we could do a new Scream movie every month, and we're going to be there, and we're going to be loving it, and it would never be too much. But for the average mainstream movie buyer who watches all the movies, like they'll go watch horror, action, whatever. Those are the ones who could get oversaturated. That's what you got to be careful. Like you don't want to do it. I often think that put a 2-year break, because if you do a third movie in 12 months from March, that is really, is it too much? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not. That
Yeah.
just seems like
I mean, well, we
a
already
lot.
know that their Radio Silence is doing Escape from New York
True.
next. So I don't think, like,
Yep.
unless someone else steps up to the directing mantle, there's going to be a bit of a gap between
Yeah.
6 and 7 if that does happen. At least
Definitely.
like
That makes sense.
my theory. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. It does make sense. That would probably put us a new Scream film, maybe 2025. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could see that. All right, man. Well, listen, I know what, man, we're almost at 2 hours. How can it be? I feel like we're just cracking the surface. I'll tell you what, guys, we're going to start to wrap up here, because we are at the 2-hour mark. But before we do, man, I just want to get your opinion real quick. And we started to touch on it a little bit earlier. One thing I was going to mention about New York that I never got back around to, and just remembered it, is how we can use the settings there, how they can use the settings as part of the cast. In other words, alleyways, right?
Yeah.
The skyscraper buildings, the subway, all these different elements that you don't get in Woodsboro, but we have in New York. And I just really hope that, and Tyler said that the subway scene is one of many scenes where we use the surroundings to make very thrilling and surprising sequences, he said.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope that we're going to get a lot of chase scenes, because we got
Hopefully it's
0 and
not going to
5.
be a Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh, could you
scenario.
imagine? Oh,
Did they shoot in New York for anything?
Like just a few days. The budget, I
Okay.
think, only allowed them. They were so broke on the budget that they only could shoot in New York for like 8 days or something. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Because I don't know, because like the same thing with Jason Takes Manhattan, where they shot in
Yeah.
Times Square. There's just the one
Mhm.
scene really with that. The rest is Vancouver.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't like if there is a subway chase scene. Because I was thinking, like, is it going to be kind of like American Werewolf in London situation? Because that would be really cool. Because it like the parts with Mindy looks like
Mhm.
it's nobody's there except for them.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, are they going to do something like that movie of just like her getting chased through the underground to catch up with or Ghostface to catch up with her? But yeah, definitely we know that there's going to be chase scenes. It's been talked about. It's been promised really at this point, and that was one of my wish list items. So I'm glad that we're doing it. We did not get we didn't get a chase scene in 5.
None.
Like I don't consider Chad running like across the lawn there to be a chase scene. And
across the lawn.
limping,
Don't forget,
really.
Hey, Zack, don't forget that thrilling wheelchair race chase in the hospital.
And 4 when poor Jenny runs up the stairs and then like goes behind a door, and then it's just like, and that was it.
That was it.
So
Yeah.
it's they're really the Stab 3 studio chase scene was really the last one, and I think that the chase scene in 2 with Gale, like that really was so that, I mean, that's kind of like the benchmark for like what a chase scene should be. So I would really love to see, if this Gale's involvement, like I'd like to see her recreate a chase scene. Like I want to see, I want to see Gale. I don't want to see Gale get killed off, because that would be a big mistake. But I'd at least like to be teased with the possibility that it could happen. I want to see Gale in peril. I want to see Gale do it like on her own mission. We kind of like this, just of what little I've looked of like behind the scenes. There's the shot from way back when of Sam and Tara, and they're kind of walking away from Gale. They look pissed off. So maybe, Gale's trying to recruit them and nobody's going for it. So Gale has to kind of go on her own little crusade to solve the murders. But this time I hope she does. I want
Me
Gale to
too.
be successful.
Yeah, man. That's another thing that you touched on. I've mentioned as well before is that I want to see the Gale Weathers from the first trilogy, from 1, 2, and 3. I want to see that Gale that is fiery. She is not taking you know what from anyone.
Hmm.
She is like, 'cause she's on the ball, man.
Yeah.
She's trying to solve the case. If we see that old Gale, we didn't see that in 5. That wasn't the same Gale.
She really, yeah, she took a backseat in 5, and 4 was just
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately too many characters to balance.
yeah. And I love 4. Now I know that you and I differ on 4 a lot, and that's I love that about the
Yeah.
franchise. It's my second favorite film in the movie in the franchise. But even in 4, yeah, you're right. She wasn't the same. It was she was going rogue from Dewey, and there was a bit of that fire in her, but
Yeah.
nothing like the first 3,
It
man.
wasn't it felt like an unfinished story
Yes.
thread, or just like not fully realized.
Right. Yes. And Tori is saying it exactly kind of what I'm talking about. She needs to be on fire. I'm gonna solve this thing. And that you're right. That those
Yeah.
images where she had the microphone trying to get with Sam and Carpenter, I mean Sam and Tara. And
Hmm.
Sam and Tara looked like they wanted nothing to do with her. Like it was, that body language. And so we'll see how it all shakes out, man. But I do have to ask you this couple more questions, and then we'll shut it down because I want to be respectful of your time. And I know you're later than me, so it's really late. Um,
Thank you.
but
Actually, you're later than I am.
oh, am I later? I get
Yeah.
confused all these time zones. Um,
Yeah.
so let's say this: Kirby Reed. Okay, I think that part of bringing her back was to get our mind off the fact that Sydney is not in the movie. It's kind of a distraction because I know, we love Kirby. She reached out to them. Can I be in the movie? Of course, they're like, yes, let's go. And now she's an FBI agent. And so
I did
she's
not
going
know
to be,
that.
yes, she's an FBI agent. That's all we
Okay,
know.
tell me no more.
Okay. All right, sorry. Sorry. That's all.
Tell me no more.
Yeah, yeah. That's all we know. That's all he said.
Yeah.
Don't ever, that's all I know. And so, what do you think's going to happen with her in the movie, man?
I mean, I definitely there was a sense that her coming back was kind of a backup plan to Nev not coming on.
Right?
So my guess was that they kind of just took that role and catered it for the Kirby character of whatever Sydney's involvement was going to be.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily we know that Sydney's not an FBI agent, but that was actually
Right.
I think before 5 came out, I had this theory that are just like if Sydney was to come back, like how would she come back? And I did kind of like pitch. This is like the early days of my channel, and I said like maybe it would be interesting if Sydney worked for the FBI. She's at that point had come across like 7 serial killers in her life. Like she knows how they think and what they do, so she would make an excellent FBI agent. And that would sort of be the twist of the opening scene, where the killer would actually not get away with the
Yeah.
murder, or at least like one of them would get killed and something, but like Sydney would like be revealed to like show up on the scene, and she'd be like, yeah,
Nice.
we've been tracking this killer for a while.
Like a
I
profiler, right? Yeah.
yeah, more or less. Not that I necessarily think that that's a good idea. That's just something I came up with at the time. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that if that's what they're doing with Kirby, I think that Kirby's going to be a character like Kirby's involvement could either just be fan service, which I hope it's not,
Right.
or she could be a huge question mark. And I think that I don't want to rule her out as a suspect, because I think that there's a possibility that
Really?
maybe depending on how like what her characterization is, like if she's comes back and she's the same like bubbly like Kirby that we knew from 4, then I don't think she'll be a suspect. That then it might
Right.
be, well, this is just fan service. But if she comes back and she's kind of like got a harder edge, and there's gaps in her story, she was gone for 12 years. We don't know what's been going on with her. And if we just sort of get like little bits of information, I think that, she might be, even if she's not the killer, maybe this is a character who's going to be a red herring or something. Like she might be like the what I suggested, like Stu, or like someone that you have to be suspicious of, or you can't trust 100%. Because she is so, or just like I feel like her involvement in this movie is so mysterious to me. But I don't think Gale will be the killer, and I don't think any of the siblings, the twins or sisters, are going to be the killer. Those, you could rule them out, absolutely, but everyone else, so I would be suspicious of.
Yeah, everyone else. And I really don't. I really hope Kirby's not a killer, man. I would be disappointed with that, honestly. I really would. I would be. I would, depending on the motive and all that. I mean, maybe it's something that I would warm up to, but just thinking of it like isolated right now, I just hope they don't. But I mean, you're right. We can't say for sure.
Yeah, like unless there's a good way to work it in. But I mean, like the motive is important, but also like the MO. Because I think that, another thing that they need to do is like set these killers, and I hope it's two, no more, no less, set them apart from everyone else. Like each movie, the killers kind of have their own thing going on. So like, four of just like the recording everything with the intent of uploading it to the internet. And, before we found out like the reveal and who they were, like, it was just interesting that, okay, these killers are doing something different. The one in 3 was doing something different because, he had the Maureen Prescott photographs and he was leaving them behind. Two was kind of like, we're kind of killing people based on like the names and stuff like that. 5 is really the one where it's just like, that's where I find the MO kind of a problem, because it was nothing. There was nothing that really set itself apart from anything else. And then like, to find out that the motive was, the whole stab thing. So like here, I think that, there is a possibility, like, I don't want to say that her being the killer is a good or bad thing yet. It's just more so depends on like, how do they connect A to B?
Totally, man. Yeah. Cause if they do a really good job of that, I could see potentially what right now I'm like, no, don't do it. I could be like, oh, that was amazing. Like that was friggin' awesome. It all comes down to the story and the writing to do it. And I'm definitely having an open mind. I'll tell you that. I'm keeping an open mind for sure. And real quick, Scott coming in with a $10 super chat. What's up, man? Thanks, Scott. Says, to be fair, Scream 5 was not on Peacock the same day it came out in theaters. So if it had been only in theaters, it would have easily gotten that 5 extra million to beat out Scream 5. Oh, yeah, you're talking about Halloween. If Halloween, because Halloween Kills was released on Peacock same day as theaters, which did hurt it as far as box office, because they don't count the Peacock stuff. So
yeah, that's true.
That is a good point, Scott. Now you're right. It probably would have beaten Scream 5 if it had been only in theaters. Yeah, that's true. But I think that the overarching idea is that if Scream 6 can make 140 again, that's to me, you've locked yourself into a 7. I mean, I don't see a 7 happening. As if this thing tanks. I'm talking makes 80 million worldwide, 90 million. Just a horrible.
I can't see this tanking, because I mean they've already kind of like the promotion for it is already doing better than Scream 4. They're really got their finger on the pulse of movie audiences, especially horror movie audiences, and especially like now in this day and age. Like I feel like 2011 horror was not a big deal. Like it's not the big deal that it is now. And the kind of horror movies that people did like in 2011 were more so your Insidious, or just like hauntings, possessions, things like that.
Movies.
That was what was like really popular there. Slasher movies are now in vogue again. So
yeah, they are.
not to say that they have to work less hard to kind of get the promotion out there, but it's almost like it's already got this built-in audience where people like want horror, they're gonna go see it, and we've already got like Threegan, Megan coming out
Megan,
in
yeah,
January. It's
Evil Dead. You talked
Evil
about
Dead
too.
in April. Like there's just like there's
Hey,
a lot
Saw,
more horror movies.
Saw
Yeah,
10
that
in
like
October.
saw in
Yeah.
October, another Exorcist. So
Yep.
it's definitely like this is a good time, and that's probably why they fast tracked 6, because it's just like, look, there's all these horror movies coming out. If audiences were to like take all these movies together, like like a Megan and a Saw and
Hmm.
a Evil Dead, Scream would probably sit high above those. People would be like, I'm gonna go see Scream. If I have to see a horror movie this year, it's
Yeah.
gonna be Scream. So I think that's
Right.
that's probably was like the impetus for getting this done so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said earlier, hit it while the iron's hot. And now we go with X and Pearl, all these Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, the list goes on and on of the slashers, and they're still, like you said, they're still going next year. And now with Scream, I'm telling you, this. I did a video. I called it the resurgence of the slasher era. It's like the slasher resurgence, and
Yeah.
it's for me personally, it's my favorite subgenre of horror is slasher. So this is like wonderful. I'm just loving it, man. Um,
Yeah.
so Scott, thank you so much, man. And I think your
Thanks,
point is
Scott.
great. Yeah, it's a good point. Yep. All right. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here and say goodbye to our good friend. But before we do, please go and subscribe to Zach Cherry's website and the Cherry Picker channel. They're both channels on YouTube, of course. Zach Cherry and Cherry Picker. Uh, they're incredible sites. You're going to love them if you haven't seen them yet. And General, I'll ask Val if you wouldn't mind putting the links one more time now. Oh, Sarah, you're already on top of it. Look at Sarah coming in. The clutch.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, Sarah's all over it. You guys are awesome. Got the best mods on YouTube. No offense to anybody else. Best mods on YouTube. Sarah, thank you so much. That's Zach Cherry's channel. Go and subscribe. Hit that bell notification. You want to watch his videos. Promise me. I mean, I promise you that. You're going to want to see that. And here we go. Smiles Voice is coming here at on the last little bit with a $2 super chat. Zach and Craven, the crossover we needed. I love it.
Thanks,
Well,
Files.
that's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you guys enjoyed us together. I certainly have enjoyed it. Zach, I hope you've had a good time tonight, man.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Hey,
10.
that's funny. That's awesome, man. Well, we were going to do an hour to hour and a half, and we went over 2 hours. So, Zach, thank you for
2:16. Yeah.
2:16, man.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know about you, but it still feels like there's so much more that could be said. It's just one of those. It's possible, right, to get it all out in one sitting.
So much to talk about. Yeah.
There is. So
Yeah.
we'll have to do that again, man. Maybe we'll connect again. I'd love to have you back again on the channel soon, and continue our discussion. And
Yeah, maybe after it's out.
yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Oh man, or maybe the next trailer too. If the trailer drops next, we can get together and chat about it. That'd be fun. But guys, listen. Be sure and subscribe to Zach. And this has been such a good time. Appreciate you all tonight for your generous super chats, your great questions. And listen, I'll be back soon here. When am I going to be streaming next? I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, I'm streaming Tuesday night. So Tuesday night this week, 9:30 Central, you'll find me back live again. And Zach, tell us what's going on, man. What are your plans for the channel the next couple of weeks, rest of the year?
Well, I've got a I don't want to call it like an unboxing, but I got something screamy that I'm working on right now. Not the typical kind of content I do, but hopefully it'll be fun. And I've got to do my end of year tier list of everything, all the horror movies.
Yeah.
And I have not fully committed to this yet, but I might be doing updated Who Killed Who's just for 1, 2, and 4, because those were made so long ago, like 2 years at this point, just to have it like in a format that's more similar to what the Who Killed Who and Scream 5 would have been, because that was a little bit more in depth. So if I can commit to that, that would be kind of to come out as the like while the movie or before the movie releases.
Wow, nice
things to look at. Also got to do the reference, all the references in Scream 5. So there's quite a bit to come.
Woo, love it. That's exciting stuff. So, guys, all the more reason to make sure you're subscribed to Zack's channel. You don't want to miss any of this stuff. Trust me.
None of it.
And, oh, yeah, man. All of it. And all right, guys. And we're getting a lot of great feedback here. People are telling us they really enjoyed it. And that's always great to see. We're glad you guys had fun. So, Zack, I'll meet you backstage in just a second for our final goodbye. And then for everyone else though in the chat, thank you so much. Thank you to Val, to Sarah, everyone, all of my mods. You did an amazing job. And for everyone else, we appreciate you. And we'll see you soon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, guys.